Hello traders, John at StockBookie.com. Today we're going to look at Aapl, JPM, and ExxonMobil on the daily, weekly, monthly time frames using technical analysis here at StockBookie.com. So let's get right into Aapl on the daily chart. We had a nice blast off on earnings, got up, but we got right into the gap fill, which we talked about. They pulled it back. Now we're trying to make a run as the markets are moving up again, slowly moving up. Volume's been pretty, average on Aapl, but we moved right back up into the 618 and this 20 MA. We filled this gap, I believe. Yeah, I mean, we just tapped it. If not, we just missed it by a couple pennies, but close enough for government work. This will be the big test. If you're a bull on Aapl, you need to get above this 20 MA, above this pivot here, right around 110.12. And then ultimately, I think you can get to the big test is this big breakdown bar here, right around 112.08. If you cannot get past 112.08, this one should continue on the downside. If you're bearish on Aapl, you do not want it to close above the 20 MA. You want it to start coming back in right now. But you do have a lot of support right here at the double bottom or gap window around 102.71. You also have a downsloping trend line. Let's see if we get that in there. From this high pivot to that high pivot here, we broke out, got above it. Now we're starting to come back in. But this was a perfect retrace. We went right back up. We retraced to the 618. We got a slight bounce with the markets and the jobs report. Now this will be the big test for Aapl. Let's go to the weekly. Weekly chart as well. That same trend line, we're up in here. This is actually a bigger one. We did get above this on the weekly close on Friday. So you need to stay above this trend line and the moving averages for this to continue up. This is a slight bullish pattern, but we also have an inside bar bearish pattern developing as well. So this week will be a big one for Aapl. If we close back below this trend line and get below this 50 MA somehow, then I think we're going down here, then ultimately around 95 again. It needs to stay above here, but we still have big resistance coming up in this pivot breakdown, and then 112.33 around there. We can't get above there or the 113.18. We're going to have some problems with Aapl. And everything will become a market trade as well. If the SPY, the Qs, the IWM start to dump out, this will go lower. Monthly chart. Still love this inside bar. We've been talking about it for weeks now. Possibly, yeah, about a month or so. If it does not get above the 20 MA and this big breakdown bar, 112, Aapl will have problems. And if it does get above there on a monthly chart, it needs to recapture the 115 area as well. But then right around 119.20, if you're a bull, I would start to get rid of this position or tighten that stop up. This is a huge breakdown area where a lot of people got stuck. This thing comes back up. All the buyers here that got screwed are going to become sellers because they're at break even. And if we go up on light volume, they'll never get past this. Especially, say if you had 100 million on here and you're going up on 10 million on here, you have 90 million possible sellers in here. You need 100 million candle to pop through there. Just the facts, people. ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil's been fun. Oil goes down, this one goes up. Oil goes down or up, this one goes down. It's just doing whatever it wants to do. That tells me there's some distribution in here. But ultimately, if ExxonMobil does not recapture, I got a couple lines on here. If it does not recapture the 20 and start making a breakout for this, I'm going to say this high pivot right here around 88.96, this is going to have problems. Right now, Exxon is setting up down, sideways, bearish pattern. Not good. And this thing's been consolidating for a month and a couple days here. That is good consolidation underneath these two MAs, building pressure to crack through this area here, the 20 or the 200, then ultimately 83.88, then ultimately gap fill right around 82.33. If you're bullish, you need to recapture these highs, get to this gap, this 50 MA, and you're going to have big resistance up in here, especially coming off of a bearish pattern. If it does fail, we can go higher, but just keep an eye on this. It needs to get above the 20 first, recapture the 88.06 area, and then ultimately these little pivot highs here. Weekly, bearish pattern. I mean, we have tails. They are fighting it. They're trying to keep it up, but this is one of the leaders, and this is what I keep talking about with the markets. Everything else is making all-time highs. Why aren't the leaders making highs? This is the leader in the oil industry, period. It needs to get back up. It should be at 95 or 100 right now. Why isn't it? But man, this is an ugly pattern setting up on the weekly. It needs to get above this 20 MA. If it doesn't, next week well, actually tomorrow and this week coming up, it needs to recapture this area. If not, this pattern's telling me we are going downtown. And this is a great pattern where we could possibly hit 81 and then maybe even 75. If the markets start to break down, it's going downtown, period. Monthly, same thing. We got, I mean, what a run from here. It goes right into this breakdown area. Great resistance around 94 bucks. Tries to pop it through. Nice engulfing reversal. Then a little bit of follow through. This is a monthly, so it's a bigger time frame. Monthly, it needs to recapture the 89 area and the 50 MA, which is around 90 bucks. If it doesn't, starts heading lower, we're going to see how it reacts at the 84 level or the 20 MA, and then this, we want to see it close below this area right here. This is a big inside bar here, starts to come in. There should be good support here, and also we have a up-sloping trend line there. So right around the $81, $80 level, there should be good support. But I keep saying, if the SPY, the IWM, the Russell, the Dow, everything starts dumping, this will go lower. You know, just like all this stuff. But this is great. Comes back in here. Let me pull this off. Let me put a fib from the top here. Let's see where this thing went. Bet you 618 or 750. Right there. Yep, 750. Never fails. Look at that. And lately it's been cracking through the 618, goes to 750, pulls back. So I'm thinking this one's going down. It needs to get above this 90, 93, 94 area to continue higher. Again, a lagging indicator. Should be leading. Why are the markets leading? And one of the biggest oil, or the biggest oil company, why isn't that leading? Just like Apple, why isn't that leading as well? Then you have the real Bank of America, JPM. And this one, they've been fighting tooth and nail with this one, you know, getting the banks up. You know, banks are good again. Banks are good again. But let's see what we got up in this area. Let me clear this crap. All right, so we have a gap fill in there. We have some high pivots. We ultimately have this little pivot there. We have this breakdown here. Yeah, you know, we have huge resistance up in here. And then actually, do we have any trend lines? No. We did make a higher, we did lower high though, or a higher, lower, higher, a higher high. Because this came down, this was making lower highs. And now we came back in. So this is actually a little bearish, but it needs, I mean, coming into this big resistance area, it needs to start pushing now. If it does not push, look at this though. Well, that was that flash crash. But if it doesn't start pushing, it's going to start taking the path of least resistance, which is down. So if you're bullish on this one, you need to get above this area of 67.92, then ultimately recapture this area right around the 69.05, and then fill this gap up in here, hit the 70 area. So if you are long anywhere up in double top in this area up in here around 70 bucks, you need to start tightening your stops. If you're bearish, you're looking at some follow through here. You want to get a close below this candle here, right around 6666. Don't like that number. If you close below that, you have some support in this area right around 62.21 or 66.21. If you ultimately crack through the 20 MA, we are going to fast track to the 50 and right down to the 200, which is 62.27. Then you have some gaps to fill down here, and ultimately you do have a gap down here right around 57.62. If the markets are dumping, this is definitely going to go down into this area. Weekly chart trying to break up. I would have loved to have seen more consolidation before it moved up, but we're taking what the markets give us. We have closed above this green candle here. I need to see it close above this high 67.77 this week to be a believer that this thing could possibly go higher. So a close above this candle will make me believe a little bit that this thing could possibly go up a little higher. And you got to remember, we do have a lot of resistance coming up, 67, 68, and then 69 in this area. So this thing has to start moving, and I want to see some more volume picking up to really push this thing up through that area. But ultimately, on the bigger time frame, the monthly, you had a nice push up, a little bit of down action. You've had a nice push up last month. Now we're into the 67.94, 68 area. You're going to have some big resistance. It needs to start going through here with some conviction. And then ultimately, we're running into more resistance up in here. If you're a bull, you need to get back to the 70 area, or all-time high of 70.61. It needs to confirm it to continue. This is another one. where if it does, it's just lagging. Apple's lagging, JPM's lagging, Exxon's lagging, and everything else is at all-time highs. Come on, these are the leaders. So there's more to that story. I'll explain to you what's going on with that. But ultimately, if this thing doesn't start leading with the other two, then we're going to have some problems in the markets. Again, everyone, thanks for watching my videos. Hopefully, I'm helping some people out there. If you have any questions or comments, please send them to me at Gmail or stockbookie@gmail.com. And you can, comment on StockTwits or what have you. I have videos on YouTube as well, as you can see. Please like them. Please share them. Thanks again for watching. God bless. See you on the charts.